Intro and then I'll introduce you. All right, guys, what's up? This is ArmyguyTravels coming at you with a special guest today. We have Curious Innes, one of my favorite Instagram travel creators, and she's in a group that I'm in as well. So I wanted to bring her on and let her talk about her experience as a solo female traveler that's been more places than I've been. So, I mean, in my life, I've been to over 100, but for YouTube, only like 30 something. And she's been to how many?
55. So hi, nice to meet you. Happy to be here.
So, so tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got into this business.
It was very organically. So I enjoy traveling and I was posting just for my friends and my family, my trips, because I lived in China and this is how all started. And then I moved to Austria and, I kept posting and people were asking me questions. And at a certain point I was like, what, like, why don't I make these more often? Because people seem to enjoy, I like to do this. And it was like organically. It was not, never like a plan.
I think it just kind of happens. That's what happened to me too. Like, so where are you from originally?
Portugal. So I'm from the north of Portugal and I have also lived in Lisbon.
Nice. I did the de Santiago, and I ended up in northern Portugal, like at the end.
Can I ask the city? Do you remember?
Well, it's been like 20 years, so I don't really remember. I did it while I was in the military because I'm a obviously Army guy, so I'm a military guy. So like you've been to all these countries, and what I find is interesting is you've been to not just like one region. A lot of European travelers just bounce around Europe, but you've been to some places that are extremely unique. Um, and it's a lot of places. One of the main reasons I wanted you on here is because a lot of the places that I'm super excited down the line to go to, you've already been. So, like Albania, I'm moving to Albania in February. So for me, like that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today. What would you say is like your biggest surprise, like the biggest thing, your most surprising experience as a traveler?
Overall or Albania?
No, overall, like
So
most surprising experience, or like the most underrated country that you kind of think is like, wow, I didn't expect this.
I think one of them was China because back then this was 10 years ago. And back then everyone was telling me like, why are you moving there? It's not safe because I think the Western media have such a bad idea of China. And it was, I don't know, the first time I didn't understand the language, all the signs were in different like writing, right? So it was a big shock, and I think that's why I was so surprised. And I have such an old, ancient culture, and it was a learning all the temples, the food, everything. And I unfortunately feel that like as more as you travel, as more things become normal. Like you need more to be surprised. And I think that was the biggest like kick I have ever had.
For me, it was Vietnam.
Yeah.
Vietnam was my, I did a whole Asia trip last year, and Vietnam was like everything that I grew up in the States. So, like, what you're saying, that Western media, oh, it's a communist country, blah, blah, blah. And then you get there and you don't feel it at all. And it's super modern. More people spoke English than I expected. Um, just really a pleasant surprise. I love Vietnam. Vietnam's kind of one of my happy places.
I haven't been yet, so looking forward like to hear that.
You're gonna love it. The food is phenomenal. The people are sweet. Like I said, I think the two communist countries out there that I've been to, like one, you feel it, Laos, you kind of feel it. But like with Vietnam, you will never feel oppression. You'll never feel like you can't act how you want to act. They're actually surprisingly LGBTQ friendly, which I was kind of shocked, but Thailand, it definitely is. But like, they are kind of like, hey, just let people live. As long as you're not going against the government, I think everything else is fair game. No drugs and no going against the government and the establishment. As long as you just want to live your life and be left alone, they let you do it, and it's crazy. The nightlife is amazing. I think, I mean, as a guy, the women are beautiful. The people are just really friendly, and again, the food's freaking awesome. So I think you're really gonna have a good time.
I relate to all of that regarding China. The same. Even, for example, well, I was going out until very early in the morning. And in China, I've never felt once unsafe. And I think people expect it to be. I don't know why, but like they have cameras everywhere. And again, if you respect the government and the rules, you will be fine. And I think you are the safest because there are cameras everywhere. So even if something would happen, which doesn't, you would be safe because they can check where you are and everything. So I really, really recommend also for female travelers because you always feel kind of taken care. That is not complicated at all.
And that's actually a really good point. Like, as a female solo traveler, like, do you have any advice for other women that want to start, like, that may be hesitant, like, hey, I don't know how safe I feel, but like I want to start venturing out into the world and exploring. Do you have any advice for them?
Yes, I would have two. So the first one would be try to start exploring your own city mainly, because then you will feel more comfortable and you also get to know what you need to think of, like transportation or like areas where you should or should not go. Like, because it's a lot about instinct and being comfortable. And also like go to restaurants alone. And then when this part of like that is sometimes weird for some people, they like you are afraid people will look weird at you because you're alone, you will realize this doesn't happen and actually realize people take care of women that are alone. So many people like saw me with a backpack or something and they come to me like, oh, do you need help? I see. And it's in the beginning I was like freaked out, like, do they have second intentions? But then you realize like if you trust your instincts, you're fine. And the second advice would be then the second step, like think of the country you would like to go the most and then look up online female women that have been there alone, and then you get the confidence and it's like it's a skill you will build on that.
So it's kind of like tattoos with traveling. Once you start getting your first tattoo, then you get three and four and five. Once you start traveling, the second you return to your home country, no matter how awesome it is, you're like, oh, I'm home. Like I've got to go and go, when I got to book another trip. Like, and I think it's like a lot of guys I talk to are, the worst feeling in the world is when they arrive at the airport at their home city. They're like, oh, I'm home. I got to go back to work and I've got bills to pay and yada, yada, yada. And I think it's like tattoo, like with tattoos, because I'm covered, but traveling is addictive and you start leveling up. You do you do like cheat, like non-wild trips, and then you start opening your mind a little bit, and then you start opening your mind a little bit, and then you're like, you might get to a point where you're like, I don't want to live in America anymore. America is an awesome country. I fought for my country, but America's changing and there's a big world out there. And if you can make dollars or euros and not have to live in your country, there's nothing wrong with getting an Airbnb in another country, or finding a place that offers long-term rentals 3 months at a time and just go. Um, that's what I did. I moved away 4 years ago and I'm never going to move back to the United States. I'll visit all the time. I love my country, but there's so many places around the world and you really get that culture when you move there. Um, you're never going to understand a country going on vacation, but you'll understand once you move somewhere. You know this, I know it.
It's true.
I can walk out my door right now and 50 meters I'm on the beach. Like,
Wow,
it's great.
that's grim. No, and that's a very good point. And also, the world is so big. Why would we be only on this small piece of it that we were born into? And I guess people are so afraid because, again, media is always like, oh, the world is a scary place. And then when you go there, you see that people are just kind of the same everywhere. You want to be safe, you want to have like house and food, and you want people to love. And that's it. And then, of course, and there are differences, but the base we are all the same. And I think that's why, as you said, it's so easy to move around. If you like follow the rules, like the governmental rules, you will always be safe because there are kind people everywhere that want to show the culture and show you the food, and they are so proud of it. So I think for me it's the best. And as I said, like I think once you start, there is no ending. Like because the world is so big, like there are like 197 countries, right? So you would never run out of places or things to experience or foods to try. So it's in one hand is amazing, but in other hand is like you need to make choice. You need to choose.
Where's your favorite food in the world?
I always have a top. I don't have one, never, because I think again, too many choices. I love Chinese food. I love my own country. I love Portuguese food, Italian, Middle Eastern cuisine. Like overall,
Yes.
it's really good. And you?
I miss the lamb. I miss the lamb. I miss the lamb in Iraq. Um, I would say I don't really have one. Oh, I know I have one, but every time I put it on a live stream, people get mad at me
Wow.
because I have a lot of followers from Trinidad and I have a lot of followers from Jamaica, both of which have amazing food. Thai people don't really get mad because they know their food's awesome and they know their country's awesome, but like Trinidad's not known for their tourism, you know? And Jamaica is, but Jamaica also has like a history, a negative history where like people like, oh, Jamaica's so violent, Jamaica's so this, so that. But the real thing is they don't mess with tourists. Most of the violence is just like it is in the States. It's gang versus gang, but it doesn't affect us. Like I went to Kingston last year, walked around alone at night with expensive camera and never had a problem. Um, one guy said, "Don't go down that street. Go down that one because like there's two gangs on each side of the street, and you just don't want to get caught in the middle. So go that way and go around the block. You'll be fine." Like they look out for you, like you said. Um, I would
That's
say my
nice.
top five are in no specific order: Trinidad food because it's a
Mm-hmm.
mix of Indian and Caribbean food mixed. Um, Jamaican food is in that top five. Thai food. Um, I love Italian, but um, Vietnamese food is really, 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 really good. And mm,
It's
Indian
hard.
food.
Indian. I agree. See, like now you said those, and I'm thinking like, oh, actually, Indian food should be on my top. So it's always hard. I think it changes also with my mood. Wanted to say one thing. You
Yes.
said something that is very important, which is like the local person told you like where to go, and that's like amazing advice because you should always do what locals do, and especially like don't go to a country, do things that you wouldn't do in your own country, because then you have a higher risk of finding yourself in a weird situation.
And trying to dress and fit and blend in, that right there gets you out of so many problems. When you look like a foreigner, you're attracting attention. They're going to know you're a foreigner, but when you stick out from a distance is when it becomes a problem. Colombia, I lived in Colombia for 3 years, and that was a big one. The second I started blending in more and dressing like them, everything got a lot easier because it is. I'm not gonna lie, Colombia is very dangerous. Like, it's a very dangerous place. It's an amazing place, but it can go from being perfect to being a really bad situation in zero point 0.5 seconds.
Mhm.
So you have to do things and you have to move in a way that eliminate or lowers that percentage chance of it happening. Colombia is just it's crazy. We could have a whole nother live on that. Uh, especially women get scopolamine, but more 90% of people that get scopolamine are men. It's really hard to date in Colombia because even if you take a girl on a proper date, you treat her with respect, you go on 3 or 4 dates, on that third or fourth date, you could get scopolamine, and next thing you know, you don't wake up. So it's that was one of the reasons I left, was because I could never trust dating. And for me, I don't move to a place for women, but like obviously I'm a single guy, so I want to go on dates, and I don't want to have to worry about not waking up the next day or being robbed of everything I own. So I kind of just got like, you know what, I'm tired of having to look over my shoulder, so I did have to make a change. I have a lot of love for that country. I love Colombia. I have a whole nother YouTube channel on Colombia that's monetized.
Oh, wow.
I have two monetized channels on YouTube. So my Colombia channel does well. So like I do have a lot of love for them, and I have a lot of content that's going to be coming out soon. Um, I went to Black Colombia, which is an area that nobody really goes to. It's called Choco. Awesome, amazing experience, delicious food, amazing people. All those videos are going to be out in the next week. Um, but yeah, it was say.
Looking forward to see that.
Yeah, they were great. I mean, it was just a great experience because it's a different experience. Everyone said, don't go, you're going to get kidnapped. I never once felt unsafe.
People always say that no matter, and what I notice is the people that travel the least and know the least about the world are the ones that are the loudest. And it's like, I didn't
But they
ask.
don't even have a passport. And they
Yeah,
don't even have a passport.
because of course, if it comes from a place of concern, but you should be mindful of the words you use, especially speaking about other countries, because otherwise you're just like keeping the idea that countries are not safe, that some countries are more important than others, and blah blah. And I really don't like that conversation. It was the same when I went to Afghanistan. Like before, everyone was like, "You are insane," because it was after Taliban took over. Like, "You are insane. You definitely lost your mind. What are you going to do?" And it was one of the best trips ever because again, like governments are not necessarily the people, and was just
Hmm.
with such kindness on like the shops, and the locals also suffer under what's happening, and they were just so happy, and I was so touched by the fact that they are really poor nowadays, and you would go in a shop and they would give you tea and cookies and everything. And I think back home we kind of lost these. We became just so self-centered, and all those things made me so appreciative. Also, for example, the fact that I'm a woman and I was born in the place where I was, it's just pure luck. And the fact, I'm an engineer, I study in university, I have a passport, no one is making me getting married, right? So, like, there are so many things that when I was there, I put life into perspective. And I also like to feel that when we go there, we kind of give hope to the locals, like we are not forgotten for the world. This was the thing they told us, like, oh, people think of Afghanistan, like, so people know where it is. And I was like, yes, don't worry. For example, we learn in history because this region, right, is where humanity started. And this is a bit we also forget like that, for example, over history the civilization changed, right? Like now maybe certain countries are very important, but maybe in 500 years they are not. So I like these trips that make you like question everything, that you are like putting everything into perspective. That was a key one also.
Where did you go in Afghanistan?
So Kabul, Herat, and Bamiyan. I would like to go to no, Masharif in a future trip. I need to go back. It's these places where it just like stole my heart, definitely.
That's like the big thing that I get is, as a soldier, before I went to all these countries when I was a soldier. And when you have a rifle on your chest, people don't trust you. They don't want to talk to you. They're not going to be open. So now I get to go with a camera and like show the world a different view. And everyone's like, "Oh, you went to Afghanistan a bunch of times and you fought there. Like you must hate it." And it's the farthest thing from the truth. Some of the nicest people I ever met in the world were Afghani, and some of the most honest people. Um, in that part of the world, there is like a lot of like India is a great example. Like I love India. I can't wait to go back and make content. But you do have a lot of scamming going on. I never once had that in Afghanistan. Afghanistan are the most honest, sweet people. And if you're a photographer, that is a country that has some of the most beautiful landscapes that you will ever see in the world. Like people like, oh, it's got to be this or that. No, it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world, especially in the east, going towards Pakistan. Like gorgeous, gorgeous. Just the photos you could take. If you wanted to sell them on websites, you could make a lot of money. But for your own memories, you're gonna have like, wow, this is Afghanistan. You know, my only concern is being a former soldier and going there with that current government. But like to be honest, so I'm planning a trip there. And what I did, I thought outside the box. I was like, how can I avoid potential issues when I go? So I emailed the government. I told them right off the top, I'm a YouTuber. I want to come and make content in your beautiful country. But yes, I was a soldier because they're going to find out when they run my visa. You know, so it's better to be like, look, I'm not a soldier anymore. I'm not affiliated with the government. I'm coming as an individual that loves your country and wants to make the best possible videos. And I got an email back about 4 months later, and they actually invited me to meet with them. Like, I can be careful how much I say, but like sometimes you got to let it go. You know what I mean? You got to let those and realize that we're both. That guy that emailed me might be a Taliban, but he's a man. And I'm a man now. We're not soldiers. We're not fighting each other. We're just trying to like they need people to start coming back because they need tourism money. And you know, it's such an amazing country with delicious food. The kids are so sweet. The kids are so sweet.
And they speak English, which was a surprise for me because I don't know, I expected it to be more closed, but people know English and they are just so curious. I also expected, because I'm a woman, that people would be like afraid of interaction, but not at all. They just run to you.
No, there's another female creator, an African American girl from the States that went there. And the first time she went, I wish I could remember her name. She like tried when the leader of the Taliban, the president, she got to meet with him. And she go ahead.
Is her name Hannah? I think
Yes.
I know her. Anna around the world. Yeah. She went to
and the first and she like tried to put her arm around him, and that's a no-no. Like that's a no-no. But like she didn't know, and the look on his face when they took the photo, because it's like, oh, it's touching me, but he knew that she didn't mean anything. Like it's just a cultural difference, you know. Like, I think that people, I have a friend that's a male traveler, and he's planning a trip to go to Afghanistan, and he invited me, but at the time he's going, my travel schedule is not going to work. But I really want. I'm super excited, like super excited. You know, I'm glad you went because that's one of those places that's that and your Morocco trip. Morocco is one of my favorite places on earth.
But I like Morocco, but I need to admit I was less, it was less impactful for me because I guess so many Portuguese people travel to Morocco because it's close. So I kind of like knew what to expect. So it was not this crush of everything was new. It was amazing. It's very beautiful. People are very kind. Food is delicious. But there was already an expectation, if it makes sense. Already like new.
Oh yeah, it's right across. It's right across the strait from Spain, and you guys are right on Spain. So
it's and we learn about it in history a lot also. So I knew a lot. Another, because you ask another country that surprised me, for example, is Turkmenistan, because they have one of the last dictatorships, let's say, in the world. And I was expecting it to be like North Korea because it's such a country that has a very big weight and people don't really know what to expect. It was nothing like that. I was so nervous because I crossed a like land border. I was like super nervous, thinking, because I was not sure if they would let you in, right? And then they received my Portuguese passport, and the reaction was amazing. It was like, Cristiano Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, because they recognized, and then they were just very young soldiers, and they were just like so happy to have an international person. And then everyone, like, it took the process, I think 2-3 hours, like so many shakes and things, and everyone would react like this when they saw my passport. And maybe it was the first Portuguese passport I've ever seen, I don't know, but it was I don't know, so surprising that you expect this place to be so remote and so close, and then they just shout Cristiano Ronaldo.
And that's what's cool is like a lot of these people are not scared of us. They want us coming. It's just I feel, like I said, the media can do a lot of damage that excludes people. Like I'll give you an example. I went to a country earlier this year that I fell in love with, and there's still people that don't know about the leader and don't think it's changed. El Salvador. I love El Salvador. Yes, it used to be the murder capital of the world. It had 6,900 murders in 2019, right before Bukele took over. In the last year, they've only had 110. And they're all near that area on the border where there's other MS-13 guys still. So it's like there are still people that think that because they don't know, they don't travel, they don't read the news.
People are
They sorry, go ahead.
sorry, people get stuck in time. Like they remember this very bad thing that happened, and then they don't like move forward. And only
Yeah, and
European countries, like, or US, everything that is like outside Europe and US, it's like that. One bad news and it's like 50 years what they think of.
it's crazy. Like some people still think that Colombia is what you saw in Narcos. And Narcos was like the 1980s and 90s. That was 30 years ago. Like now, when I said it was dangerous earlier, I'm just more talking about the general like violence in the street, but the stuff that happened that people saw in TV shows, that was so long ago that it's a totally different country. If you move right, you can have a great time in Colombia. I think you just have a different experience when you live in Colombia as a foreigner. But everybody sees Narcos because it only came out like 6 years ago, and they're like, "Oh, that's Colombia now," and it's like, no, Colombia is. There's no like extreme violence and bombings and assassinations like that doesn't happen. But people think because of a TV show that So I hope some of my videos change the narrative. But I'm also not going to lie when people ask about the safety and security, because I think you also have to know the truth so that you can prepare yourself to not make these mistakes. Because usually there's things that people do that put themselves in that position for something to happen. And I'm not blaming victims, but you wear a big gold chain, you're asking someone to take it.
Yeah,
Barcelona is the same way.
putting a spotlight on you. But about what you said, I have two more examples regarding that. For example, the first one is, I would say, Mexico. So many Europeans still feel that Mexico is super dangerous, and it depends where you go. Of course, there's still crime happening, but it's not everywhere. And the example I always give is, for example, I was in Los Angeles and I flew to Mexico City. This was like roughly 6 hours. Equivalent distance in Europe would be flying from Portugal to Bulgaria. Mexico City is midway Mexico. Mexico is a huge country. You cannot compare what happens in one city or area to the whole country. And this is what people forget. Like, I don't know, there were attacks in Paris and no one stops to go there, right? And then there is one attack in a certain country and it's immediately like, no, 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 go. And I don't like these double standards. And for example, another example is the Balkans that you love so much because you moved to Albania, right? The war ended so long ago, and people still think they are dangerous. And it has been, what, 30 years almost? How can we still be stuck there, right? For example, in Portugal, everyone thinks Eastern Europe, not everyone, but like many people, Eastern Europe is dangerous, like Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, and it's not at all. And that's also some very nice area to travel as solo female traveler, because people are more open to tourists. It's not like in Italy or Paris, they don't care about you anymore, right? Like France, Italy, Spain, it's like you are one more.
Spain is going after us now. Spain is like the entire country is like starting to hate foreigners. Like it's not foreigners, it's travelers, like tourists. It's funny. I've been watching all the memes.
Portugal is getting a bit in this direction too. Well, so I understand we also need to do it respectfully, and I think the problem is some countries it was too much. And for example, uh, France, yeah, France, Italy, and Spain is the three countries in the world with the biggest amount of tourism. So, for example, I don't know, Venice. Like, there are some places that there should be some kind of like plan to make it long term sustainable, because otherwise you just destroy the place and in 50 years we can no longer visit it. But it's not also only the people's fault, right? Like everyone wants to travel. It needs to be cooperation between like government making a plan and people maybe traveling off season and like certain things. I'm not saying it's correct what they're doing to tourists, but I'm saying like I understand the anger, like because if you live in a place, you also want to protect it. Like for example, Venice is sinking. So as more people as you have, as like you are making the problem faster, right? And it's like such a small space,
Exactly.
1 million of people. So understand both sides. And these topics in travel related niche is always complicated because there is not never in history of humanity, right? We have this opportunity like nowadays. So I think we are all facing this for the first time, and there is no solution. Like we simply don't know. We never did it. But it will be interesting to see also how it changes over time. Very
I
excited.
think another factor right now, like for example, I live in the Dominican Republic now, and I found out like 2 days ago I'm going on a trip to Brazil,
Oh,
a free trip, which is I've been to Brazil before, but free is great, right? And I've been to Rio, but I've never been to Sao Paulo. I'm going to Sao Paulo for half the trip and Rio the other half. And I think part of the problem that the world is having is like the pandemic happened, everybody was locked up for 2 years. And then after that, a lot of people that never traveled before are like, I was cooped up all this time, I gotta get out. And a lot of people that have never traveled before are now starting to travel. And then it comes down to certain countries have favorable passports and other countries don't. So you've got countries like the US. I can go to most places. Now, what I'm realizing is, not to go political, but under the current administration, they a lot of countries are locking down and like changing are very favorable. Like for example, Albania was 1 year, no visa necessary. Like you just visa on arrival 1 year is you get 1 year. Now
mm-hmm.
it's 90 days.
Wow.
And I'm complaining about only getting it to go 90 days, but I don't even need a visa. But then you got people in Africa that make good money and have good careers and have a passport, and it's hell for them to go to other African countries, let alone Europe, let alone Asia, let alone coming to the States. And I think that when certain countries, it's easy for people with the Schengen passport or Americans, we could just go. Most of the countries in the world, we could just get up and go, but it's not reciprocal. And that was like Brazil had a big issue with the United States recently. Well, not just US, France, and England. They just started to put restrictions. They haven't followed through on it yet, but it's probably coming. Um, they want reciprocity for their citizens to be able to travel like we can to their country. And, you know, they're not getting it. So they decided to do this like, okay, we want bank statements, we want background checks, a lot of things that you didn't need. But then they postponed it because of Carnival. If they did it during Carnival, they would lose a ton of money. And now the NFL is going to play a pro football game in Sao Paulo, which is why I'm going. And the Washington Commanders sponsored a veterans group that I belong to here in Dominican Republic, and they're covering our trip, which is amazing.
Amazing.
But because of that, they don't want to implement this. Like they want to start putting restrictions so that it can be more equitable and more reciprocal. And I think that's a big problem. That could be why like some countries are starting to have a problem because they don't get the same access that we do. Would they have to take us in, but they don't get to go and have the same courtesy?
And
And I think that's another factor.
passport privilege is a very big thing. And for example, as you know, I want to visit every country in the world, and this is a question I get a lot, or comments I get a lot, like, "Oh, you are so privileged because you can do this." And I need to admit, it's true. If I was born maybe with a weaker passport, it would be so much harder. And the fact is, I think I need visa. Portugal is top 5 of the strongest, so I need visa for
Yeah.
maybe like 10, 20. There's a very good app I use called Passport Index, and you can compare passports. And I was playing with it. For example, when I went to Afghanistan, I checked, and they cannot go anywhere. And this is also a thing people forget, that when bad things happen in their countries, they are like, "Oh, but why are they coming illegally, or why are they doing bad things?" Yeah, because they don't have open way to live. And of course, but let's not go political, but like it has so many consequences that people don't think of, because we are just so used that we can go, that they don't even consider these people cannot go legally because it's not open. So
I mean,
it's
most of the world can. I went to Chile 2 months ago. Chile is amazing,
mm,
amazing. But Chile is the only country in Latin America that doesn't need a visa to go to the United States.
interesting. I didn't know that. Wow, the only one.
The
And
only one from Mexico down
wow,
that, like, even now, some countries have it easier. Like Panama, it's really easy for them to go to the States because of our relationship and military bases, and they use the dollar. So, but yeah, like Chile, it's because they're politically and economically stable.
yeah.
Ever since Pinochet situation, like now um, they've got a Croatian president.
I didn't know. That's interesting. But it was he born there or?
There's 500,000 Croats living in Chile. And he was born in Chile, but his parents are of Croat descent. His name is Boric.
Okay, makes
So definitely Croatian.
definitely, yeah, makes sense. And about the visa thing, a fun fact is, for example, for Portugal, Angola was demanding a visa, and I needed to do all that when I went there, like prove how much money I had in my bank, my job, like everything, all the complicated papers, because we were demanding it. So they were like, Portugal wants us to prove and asks us for a visa, we will do the same. And people were mad, but I was thinking it's more than fair. Of course, it was annoying for me, but it's like, we ask, they ask back. It's a fairness point.
So, like, I'm planning a trip right now. I've already got my plane ticket. I've got my host letter to go to Nigeria for 3 weeks in December and January. But what I've found out, and this is something I've had to explain to people, like if you move to a foreign country and you still plan on traveling, you really have to take into consideration that, like, for example, there's no Nigerian embassy anywhere near me. They have consulate in Kingston, but they don't process Nigerian travel visas. So I either have to go back to the States, um, and sit there for weeks waiting for my passport to come back. So actually, I have an appointment at the embassy here in U.S. Embassy in Santo Domingo to go and get a duplicate passport. So I'll have two, so that I can travel on one whenever I need a visa for another. Because otherwise, I'll be stuck somewhere. I mean, I can't. I don't live in the United States anymore, so I'm going to be stuck in a hotel, paying for a hotel for 5 weeks. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Um, Another option, if I wish I would have known before I moved, if I had done my process, I mean, nobody answered any emails or calls, so that was the problem. But I found out that the only embassy in South America is in Caracas, Venezuela, which I also need a visa for, and right now is definitely not a place to go. Not right now. I love that country, but not the time. And but if you live in Colombia, you can mail to Ecuador or then Caracas, and they'll process your Nigerian visa without having to go into an office. But I didn't know that because nobody told me until after I'd already moved. Because I still have a visa in Colombia and an ID. But too late.
I have an advice for you because you said you are going to live in Albania. There are very cheap direct flights to Vienna, and Vienna is in the center of Europe, so we have so many embassies. It's really easy. So you could see this as an alternative. Because I always go to Vienna
Okay.
for my visas, but I live in Austria. Not in Vienna, it's like 4 hours, but I flew, I think, Ryanair, the low cost ones, and very easily you get 50 euros flights. It's like 1 hour and a half flight, I think. So it's very convenient for you because there are many
What
actually Albanians living in Austria. That's why you have so many cheap flights.
which country are you based in right now?
Austria.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, like I'm excited to go to Europe and spend time going all around Europe making content because I'm doing the same thing where I'm going to try to go to every country. But is it bad that I'm more interested in going to like the countries you were at, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Georgia? Like I love Georgia. I've been there before. I'm more excited to go there than I am France, Spain, even Portugal, unfortunately. Like because I think it's those are like the main European countries: Germany, Denmark, Spain, France, Portugal, like Italy. These are countries that are like everybody knows about them, and
Hmm.
I think it's more interesting to go to these like countries that you might be the only foreigner at that time, and to me that's really cool.
That's amazing. No, I agree with you. Even though I'm Portuguese and I love Portugal, I get the same hick. Like when I'm at home, I really appreciate, but of course, I want to go to places that are the most different. And even here in Europe, like I would say, for example, Montenegro, or like Moldova, or like those countries fascinate with me way more than Portugal, Spain. For example, I'm Portuguese. I've never been in Madrid, which is a thing everyone makes fun of, but no, I think I will have time when I'm retired in the future. I can enjoy those places because they are so as like easy to visit. But like not, I will not go to Kyrgyzstan traveling in a van for I don't know how many days when I'm 80, right? So it's like now it's the time, and I recommend you go soon because Kyrgyzstan is like still so close. And we were the only foreigners. We slept in many regions. We slept in a tent, in yurts. We were like with a family in the mountains. We saw Bushkashi, this horse game thing. It was like so unique, and they again are so proud of showing it because they have been nomads for so long. And I love to see how the communities live together because don't know if you know the flag. It has 52 rays, and each represent a tribe. Because they still live like this in community, and it's so I don't know, amazing to see different ways of living because again we are becoming so normal with like our houses are the same. Everyone in Europe has like IKEA furniture, right? We are so standard that it's so nice to go to a place where they need to think of everything because they are carrying the yurts, they are building everything needs to have a purpose. But that was nice.
I'm going there next year. Because I'm moving to Albania in February and I'm going to be there. I'm only allowed 90 days for the visa now. So I'm going to go there first and go around the Balkans during that time. And then I'm going to Georgia. And while I'm in Georgia for 3 to 6 months, that's when I'm going to go to Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan. Like Kazakhstan is fascinating to me. And I think you went there, right?
Yeah, I went there. So I've not been to Tajikistan. I've been to the other four. I would say the one that surprised me the most was Kyrgyzstan, the one I was speaking, because in the same day we had like 40 degrees and we saw snow because the landscape is so diverse. You have rivers, you have glaciers, you have places that are really flat, nothing happening. It's really, really unique. And of course the van ride, I think people don't like the traveling part, like the commuting part, but I love it because it gives me such a perspective of the distance, and the seeing the landscape change. And in this country was unique. For example, even there are some regions where the stone is red, and other parts is like just normal mountain, and I didn't expect because it's like so small an area. No, it's amazing. You will love it.
Like
Then I will
I'm
see
gonna
you.
I'm gonna I'm gonna have a great time. Like in Georgia, I'm super excited because Georgian food. Oh, how did I forget them? They're in my top 5 for food.
Where the wine is also supposedly from which is people don't, not everyone agrees, but it's people think that the wine was first made in Georgia.
Georgian wine is the best in the world, hands down. When I left Bogota, my going away party was at the Georgian restaurant in Bogota.
Oh,
I had my closest friends that I had made over those couple of years. Like we all had a meal together on my last night before I moved, and like there's a Georgian, like there's 3 Georgians in all of Colombia, and one owns a restaurant. There's only 3, and my buddy is a Colombian. He married her, but her family owns a winery in Georgia. So I'm gonna go out there and make a YouTube video at their winery, and then I'm
okay.
gonna send. They're gonna be live streaming all my Georgia content in the restaurant in Bogota. So that'll be cool.
Yeah,
People don't realize how good it is. I fell in love with Georgian food when I was in Ukraine last year.
mhm. How was it? Because I want to go to Ukraine. It's one of the few countries in Europe I've not been, but nowadays it's a bit tricky. Did you feel okay as a traveler? Because I'm just
Never
worried that
felt
things change fast, like it's unstable.
so when I went when it was really bad. It was really bad. I went in March of last year. But
Much.
you have to realize, like again, Ukraine's a huge country, so um, it looks small because on the map because it's right next to Russia, which is so damn big. But like, it's actually a ginormous country. And the thing people don't understand is, in the West you have Lviv, and Lviv got hit hard from the Belarus side, but Kiev was. We had like one drone attack when I was there. Nobody got hurt. They've got a dome. Um, you feel it. You kind of feel that you're at war because they do have curfew. There are soldiers with rifles everywhere. A lot of guys have gotten wounded, so they come back to Kiev, and you're going to see them wounded. I met a lot of people at there's a gringo bar I went to, so I met a lot of foreigners that are fighting for the International Legion. A lot of them are soldiers from around the world that want to support and don't have a war to fight anymore. So they're just going there and volunteering. I met guys from Colombia, guys from Venezuela, guys from Peru, guys from Brazil, one Argentinian guy. I met guys from Spain. I don't think I met anyone from Portugal that was over there. Um, a lot of your French Legion guys, you know how it is. So they're going over there to fight. But Ukrainians are pretty resilient. They know they're at war. Everybody's affected by it. But in Kiev, the restaurants are packed. The I met a girl at a bar at a private like a speakeasy,
Mhm.
and ended up going out with her the whole time I was there. And um, we went on a Ferris wheel. I took her on a date. We went to go have barbecue. We went and had they have this like cherry wine and that's really good in Ukraine. Um, and so we had barbecue ribs and then cherry wine, and then I took her in the park and we went on a merry-go-round or like a Ferris wheel, and like they have after hours clubs in the bunkers to get around curfew, but if you get too drunk you can't leave. You've got to go sleep it off in the back room. um, they're trying to make the best of a bad situation. um, I never once felt unsafe. Honestly, I think everybody walking around with rifles is keeping it safe.
Mhm.
You're never going to get robbed. You're never going to get scammed. Um, it was a unique time to go. I cannot wait to go back to Ukraine. I had an amazing time. Um, but then I also made some content. What's up, Shadow? If you have any questions to ask Curious Innis, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Um, like, um,
But that's interesting because I almost went, as I said, but then I was just unsure, and I thought, there are so many places I want to go. Anyway, it was not like hard to find a different plan, but eventually, maybe next year or something, I want to go Also to Belarus, because I had a trip booked there, both there to Russia and to Ukraine. So I was going to Russia, COVID started, my flight was canceled. I was going to Ukraine, the war started, and I was going to Belarus, and then they canceled the visa for Europeans. So it has been like this area that I really want to go, and it seems like every time it's first world problems. I'm not really complaining, but it has just been like making me want even more, because it has been hard to get there. So I guess when I go, I will love it.
My suggestion: do wait, do Ukraine when when your passport's almost full. Because I know traveling as much as you do and traveling as much as I do, we run through passports in like a year and a half. It goes like people don't realize like you're traveling so much that like I filled an entire passport in a year already. Like, and now I'm on another one. And I would, if I were you, my suggestion, I would do Ukraine at the end of that passport when you know it's almost full, and then when you get your new passport, then go to Belarus and Russia, because it's if you show up with that UA in there, the Ukrainian visa, it could cause you a lot of problems.
That's a smart thing. I didn't think of that yet, but it makes all the sense. As so many regions, right? I wanted to say I even put on my passport, I think in 5 pages, a stamp, like a sticker, not a stamp, a sticker saying please don't stamp here with like smileys, because sometimes it's just stamp once in a page for the sake of not searching, because they can stamp multiple times in the same page, and this is then a problem if you want the longer visas, right? So I just put stickers, and hopefully till now they don't stamp there, and they even laugh sometimes like why did you do this, and then I explain and they're like makes sense. It's just a tiny tip if you need it. And the,
Definitely. Like what I was doing, I was putting the not sticker the sticker, the little like post-it notes
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
block pages off, because I knew when I went to Vietnam, because I did Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, Thailand, and Korea, and some of them have like the full page. So I was like, I need you guys, and they were like, why? And I said, because like some countries have the whole thing, you know.
I even put like pink ones, and then of course I'm a woman, so when they make fun, and I think feel it's like a nice ice break, because in some border checks it's a bit stressful. So then they laugh, and it's like fun. No, it's
That's
a
the big one. When I went from Poland to Ukraine, they asked me why I was going. They said, "Are you going to fight?" Because all the men that go over there are going to fight. And I was like, "No, I'm going to see my sister to because my sister's Ukrainian for her birthday." Um, and like when I got back, then they're like, "Okay, go ahead." But then then I'll tell you a funny story in a second about passport control in a war zone, because it was really interesting. But like on the way out, they checked me hard. Like I did a train in from Poland because there's no flights. So I did a train in, and then I wanted to be different. So I took Flixbus out just to see the difference, because I wanted to see what it was like with immigration in a war zone and how it would be different between train and bus. Train is obviously extremely much more easy. It's much more comfortable. It's easy to get in and out. Bus is more complicated, because you're going to get pulled off the bus twice. You're going to get pulled off in Poland, I mean in Ukraine, and then when you get into Poland 5 minutes later, they're going to do it again.
Mhm.
So, and you're going to go through and if you're American, they're going to search your bags because they're going to think you went to fight.
Oh,
So, and they're going to want to make sure you didn't take any war trophies, you don't have any weapons, and all that. So, if you're American, you're going to get pulled. They're nice about it. I was actually over on my liquor allowance because I brought bottles of alcohol and wine back from Georgian restaurant in Ukraine, and he goes, You're over," and I said, "Yes." And I was like, "But if you want a little, you can take one of the small bottles." And he goes, "No, that's okay. I just wanted to see if you'd be honest." I was like, "Yeah, I know I'm over. Like the stuff is so good, I had to." And he goes, "No, I know." And I was like, "If you need to take some and put it and confiscate it, that's fine."
I
But
have a
when you
question
when
for
you
you.
go in, when you fly in, I flew into Warsaw, and then I got on a train the next day to it went through one of the other big cities in the south, and then you go to this like border town, and nobody speaks English. They all speak Polish, and I'm in line with all these Ukrainians that were getting ready to head back, and a lot of them like were talking to me like, "Yeah, we don't even know if we have a home. Like, we haven't been home. When we left, it was bad." And I didn't understand the lady that was giving directions, and I'm talking to my buddy, and my buddy's like, "Yeah, you should ask and complain." And I'm like, "Bro, all these folks might not have a home going back. I'm just going to visit. Like, I'm not going to complain about anything. Like, I would be like the most American thing to do ever." Um, I was actually standing in line in the cold with all these Ukrainian refugees going home, and that's when I found out I got verified on Instagram, because I got verified before you could buy it. Now I think you could just buy it, but I
Yeah, I
got the
think
blue check mark standing in line in Poland in the cold at night waiting to go into Ukraine. So that was like kind of a really special moment, like because I think I was at 25,000 followers on Instagram at the time, and they're like, "Hey, you've been accepted into the verification program. If you accept, we're going to do a check on your account, blah blah blah." So they did. And then I got to Ukraine, and I had been. Next thing I know, I had the little blue thing, and I was like, "I'm famous." I'm not famous, but um, you go through like this thing, and then all of a sudden, what I didn't know is that they don't leave anybody. The line gets really long, and the train doesn't go anywhere. It waits until everybody's done. So you might have a train time in Preshamish. I always mispronounce it. It's right on the border.
mhm.
Um, but you think, oh no, I'm going to miss the flight. I mean, I'm going to miss the train. We're not going to make it in time. No, that train waits until everybody that has a ticket for that train gets on. They just have to go through immigration. You go through immigration, and it goes pretty fast. And then you get on the train, and then it takes off. And 10 minutes down the line, down the road, you're in Ukraine. It stops, the doors open, uniformed soldiers with rifles, pistols, iPads, and passport stamps get on, and they do, and then the doors shut. It takes off, and they do passport control on the move. It was
That's
really really cool. Like
interesting.
because I gotta fly in here, but yeah, like it was kind of cool, like doing passport control on the move in a war zone.
And it's optimized. Would you say that was the hardest border that you should pass, or did you have another one that was the hardest? Because for me, for example, the one
Um,
that took the longest was Hungary, Serbia, which makes no sense, but we waited, I think it was like almost 8 hours. It was really weird.
for Serbia,
Hungary, Serbia, yeah. I don't know why. And it was like even leaving EU or Schengen, in this case, it's Schengen and EU. And normally it's like hard when you go in. It was really weird. It was overnight. It was the bus. We were stopped there. They checked all the bags. We needed to leave again. As you said, you leave, you cross the border. But it took so long. I never would have expected it.
would you say it would be better to fly in?
For sure, fastest. But I
Yeah,
like to travel by land, to be honest, because for me it gives me more the feeling I'm traveling. Because when you fly, I don't know, you're just like in the place and you leave the airport, and like when you go by land, you see the changes. So I like that the most.
definitely. In the Balkans, what is like your spot? Is it Albania? Is it Montenegro? Is it Macedonia?
Montenegro. For me, it's also
Montenegro?
very special. I love it because it's a hidden gem. Like no one goes there. Not no one. Some people, but it's not like a hub of tourism. I was in, for example, Kotor, which looks like Dubrovnik in Croatia, and no one is there. It's like you can go diving. I really, really enjoyed it. It's for me. Albania, I would say it's the second one. I was twice already in Albania this year, and it's amazing. But I guess Albania will become the new like Italy and Croatia over. Even the locals were telling this to me that they, in for example, it's a small country, and they in a few years, like this year, they have more tourists than people living in the country. And it's what they say, it was like so fast that the infrastructure didn't develop. So no, the bus or the trains and everything is like so limited for the amount of people, and they are not so happy, some of them. But I guess, of course, it has a lot to offer, and I hope they will use the money to develop the country and be easier. Also, it was
I was
interesting.
very
It's just wanted
sorry. Go
to say
ahead.
more because Albania, as you know, was closed for so long. Then when I went there, I thought people would be kind of suspicious of you because if you are closed, like you kind of don't trust the outside world. And they were just so happy to help you and to talk about the country. So that was a fun, contra-intuitive learning.
If you had to give people like let's say that somebody wants to go for 90 days to Albania,
Mhm.
what would you tell them? The coast or Tirana?
90 days, I think you can do everything. I would say I would divide it in three. So I would do 1 month in the coast, and then I would do a month in like Tirana and the north part, and the second month in the south. Because I also have this UNESCO World Heritage sites, right? This Berat and all those cities. So I think you could split it in areas. Of
The
course,
one
if
thing I'm really excited about with Albania, because I mean, I was excited to move here, but my mind is on February. Like, I love the Caribbean, but I'm so excited about moving there. Um, I a lot of people think nationalism is a bad thing. I love it when I go to a country and people love their country so freaking much that they will fight you over it. And that's Albanians. Albanians, they don't hate other countries. They just love their country so much that if you say anything bad, they will fight you. Like, and I like that. I like it when people are like, my country's number one. I love Albania. Albania is the shit. And if you say anything, I'm gonna smack you. And because that's Albanians, like that's how they are. And I actually like it. I think it's cool. Like Albanians are so different because they've got that mix of like Turkish and Muslim culture and European. And, people don't realize you could see Corfu from Cosamil. Like you can see Greece. Italy is right across the Aegean, like $100, $200 flight. Like, so they're influenced, but, and then they've also, with Kosovo being right there and that whole situation, um, there's a guy, a musician I love from well, I have two that I love from Albania. One's a female, one's a male. Like I love Capital T. He's
oh,
super famous.
I
Yeah,
know, I
he
know.
did the song for Copa or for Euros. But when he did the song, he talked about Dardani, and Dardani is like that's when Kosovo and Albania were together. And a lot of people, he thought they interviewed him about it, and a lot of people thought he's like, I thought people were going to be mad about that. He's like, actually, a lot of people were super excited and they love the history. They just don't like the war that came from it, right?
I think it depends which side you ask, right? If you ask
Yeah.
Albanians, yes, but if you ask the other side, not really. And I unfortunately think that the situation is still not solved, because I'm afraid that, for example, when foreigner forces leave Kosovo, that the problem will explode again. Even for example, I know I've been there. I posted a lot about it because for me, I think at this point, it should be recognized. So many countries recognize it, and it's a pity that this is still kind of in a gray zone. And for example, when I received so many comments of people from the other countries saying, "Oh, when the foreigner forces leave, we will go there again." And I hope this does not happen, but I kind of fear that that's like in the people's minds, like kind of stuff. But yes, Albania, they are so proud of that. And I also enjoy, for example, the traditional like dances and clothes. There is a very amazing restaurant in Tirana where they do like every Friday and Saturday dances and food. And they, again, for me, it's like so different from what I know. I really enjoy it.
I was super, super bummed when they changed the law, the visa rules this year. I know a lot of Americans that live there were kind of taken back because they thought, okay, I have 1 year. That gives me time to decide if I want to stay and actually apply for residency. And then a lot of people like overnight were illegal, like undocumented,
Oh,
because imagine if you think you have a year and you've been there for 9 months, and now the government says you have 90 days is the most you can be here. If you've been there 9 months, you're already significantly over your 90 days, and they didn't have a amnesty period. So immediately all these people are going to attorneys, getting attorneys, going to immigration. Like, what am I supposed to do? And they were giving them like 1 week to leave. So a lot of people went to attorneys and started an immigration process because they wanted to stay. A lot of people, I think Albania is going to be like you said, it's going to be a hot spot because it's still affordable. The beaches are gorgeous. As a single male, I think the women there are some of the most beautiful in the world. They're just gorgeous. Like, I'm a huge Anissa fan, the singer Anissa,
yes, yes, I
and
know.
she's like their most famous singer, female wise. So, but she grew up in New York, but her parents are Albanian. So I
So,
was kind of really bummed when they changed the visa rules. I was like, oh,
do you know Dua Lipa? Because her parents are from Kosovo.
yeah,
Yeah. So when you
yeah,
are there,
Dua
like you
Lipa,
see everywhere. It's so funny.
yeah, Dua Lipa. Um, oh, Mila Kunis is Albanian,
Oh,
the actress.
I thought she was Ukrainian. Interesting.
Yeah, I think she's Albanian, but I could be wrong. Um,
Because I
yeah,
know
I mean, it's
one. Like there is a very funny interview of her in Russia where they were saying bad things in like Russian, and she understood, and then she answered in Russian. But maybe mixed. I don't know, parents from different places. But that was a fun thing that people sometimes. I don't know if this happens to you. It happens to me that people like. Expect me not to understand. I don't know if you speak other languages besides English, but like with Portuguese, it happened to me, for example, in Angola, and people were talking about me, and I was like, I'm understanding. Stop
because
it.
they speak Portuguese there.
Yeah, yeah. It was a colony. So it's, yeah, and they were saying not so nice things. And it was very annoying.
Yeah, it happens. Like, my Spanish is probably intermedio, so I understand more than I can speak. So I understand, and then I speak. Um, well, not as much anymore. I was fluent in Arabic for a long time through the military. The military sent me to school to learn Arabic because of my job, and I was in the Middle East. I spent 7.5 years in the Middle East. Um,
Afghanistan and
but Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait.
Kuwait. Okay. Hmm.
A little bit in Jordan. I flew in and out of Kyrgyzstan a lot because we used to use that. If you were flying to Iraq, you would go through Kuwait. If you were flying to Afghanistan, you would go through Kyrgyzstan
Ah, okay. Let's see.
because we have a military base in southern Kyrgyzstan, right near the Afghani border.
Mhm.
So, but I was in an explosion in a truck, and I was in a coma for a while, and I kind of lost all the Arabic, but I'm starting to pick it back up.
Glad that you're okay. And for example, because what I hear about Arabic is not only it's super hard to learn because of also of the alphabet and pronunciation, but it changes so drastically from country to country. It's like very hard to use it. I
Oh
don't
yeah, and you got like in Afghanistan, they've got like 5 languages. So Urdu,
know.
Pashto, Dari, Farsi, Arabic. So it's like you sometimes your Indian buddy in your army unit will speak more of the languages than you will because like maybe he's from near the Paki border. Like But yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, what was weird for me is I went from Bogota, where I was living, which has supposedly the cleanest Spanish outside of Spain. Like in the whole world, Latin world, they say that the best Spanish, the cleanest Spanish, is for it's outside of Spain is in Bogota. And now I'm here in Dominican Republic, and it sounds like they're mumbling. I hope nobody hears that and gets mad at me. But the Spanish is
So,
it's so different. Afro Latino Spanish is just it's so difficult to understand. Um, like where I live, we're only a couple hours from Haiti, so a lot of people speak. There's a lot of Haitians here, so they speak a lot of Creole and French as well. And obviously, there's a geopolitical issue between those two countries right now. So, like my driver, my moto concho guy, is from Haiti, and when I met him, he's like, "Yeah, I'm from Puerto Plata." I was like, "Bullshit, bullshit! You're not from Puerto Plata." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "You're Haitian. I know you're Haitian." He goes, "Well, I just don't like telling people that." I was like, "You have to realize Americans don't care." I said, "Dominicans care. We don't have a dog in the fight." So I said, "If you're around one of us, you can say you're Haitian and be proud of it. And it's nothing to us.
mhm.
Like we actually feel bad for your country, what it's going through right now." So, um,
It's
they've got Kenyan military all over Haiti right now.
I know. I've read. I have a friend from Republic Dominican, and she lives here now, and it's she speaks about it, and it's always complicated. Like that, I at least I try not to think too much about those things while I travel. I try to focus also what I share on the positive side because I. It's not that I try to ignore the bad things in the world. It's just I try to share or to give so to show people less known countries to try to have like a positive impact so maybe the mentality changes because there are too many fights to fight and it's hard to know what to publicly also say and share. And so I would rather, for example, Afghanistan, I didn't say nothing political because I would rather show the beauty of it, that people don't change the narrative in their brains. It's a very important thing for me to not, but not in a fake way, in like how I felt it and what I've seen. I try to see the good in the world. But yeah, those
Have you
things.
ever thought about Have you ever thought about going to Syria?
Yeah, maybe
I'm
soon.
so excited about Syria.
Me too. I'm excited about so many countries. It's like it's so hard to choose. If I could, I would, like just go everywhere. Now.
The food in Syria is. I went to Syria in the army, and Syrian food is like you're gonna have the best food. Like, and maybe of all the Arab countries, might be there. Like Moroccan food's delicious. Iraqi is really good. Afghani's good. Um, a lot. I mean, all the Middle Eastern food's phenomenal to begin with, but like Syrian food is so good.
And I have a question for you. Do you also, because you traveled to so many countries long years ago, do you like to go back to places? Because, for example, for me, I know there are a couple, like, I would like to see them in 20 years to see how they change.
So for me, it's different because all I went to 84 countries when I was in the military. Some of it was for military work, and some was like, okay, we're giving you 2 weeks of R&R, and then they'll buy you one round trip somewhere. Like you'll get the military will pay for your flight for R&R. So, but I don't count it because I didn't blog it. So what I did is when I started YouTube, I started at zero.
Okay, I see. That's interesting. So you,
So like
okay.
on my website, um, I have like a world interactive map on my website. And then like as I go to the country, now I'm a little behind because I don't know how to use WordPress yet. I'm learning. I'm taking a class, and I've kind of fired my editor. The old editor that like was my webmaster, I had to let him go. Some stuff happened, but um, so I have like 7 or 8 countries that are not updated yet. But as I go to one, it turns from blue to red, and then I link one of the videos from YouTube into that country.
I
So
see.
like so as I go, you can see everything. Um, Now, since I started YouTube, a year and a half ago. I'm at like 31 or 32. And I have countries that I enjoy. I don't have any country I've been to that I'm like, okay, I hated my time there. I don't want to go back. But I do have countries where I'm like, okay, I saw everything I wanted to see. I wasn't overwhelmed, but I did have a good time, and I just don't care to go back. Unless if something else pops up, or if an opportunity to see something new that I didn't know about from a local, like if a local reaches out and says, hey, there's this, did you see it? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Maybe I'd go back. Um, but um, other than that, like I'm kind of on that. There's no point spending the money to go to another country I've already been to right now.
Oh, yeah, I see.
When I'm going to be going to, when I need to spend money on going to, because I'm retired and I get a pension, so I have I have a budget, right? What's up, TMI? So for me, I'm not going to go to like the same country over and over again because I want to go to other countries and visit. Now, the reason I'm doing Brazil, even though I've been there, is because it's a free trip. All I need is spending money. So for
Mm.
me, it's not a big deal. Um, so
I wanted to say
yeah,
that's a good point because I think sometimes people that look at people like us and think we just do it for the sake of doing it, but they forget we have these restraints and we need to be very mindful of how we spend our like money and budget. And it's really not just tomorrow we'll go there. No, like we really think it through and plan over time and so on. There's like so much logistics hidden. It's not just a cool thing. Before, when I used to see other people doing it, I only saw the positive, and now that I'm doing it, it's like there's a lot of work behind the scenes.
well, and people think that we're rich because we can do it, and it's not. We just budget better. I mean, I'm not any better. I'm not saying I budget. I'm a financial whiz, but I have a fixed income because I'm not working right now. I'm full time content creation, and that's it's not cheap. I've probably spent $100,000 on content creation, equipment, travel, hotel. Um, People don't realize you go to these some of the countries you went to, like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan. Like it's not cheap to get around because you're going long distances. So you do have to budget and you have to plan it right. And if you make a mistake, it's going to hurt. It stings.
Yeah,
Like people don't understand. You could imagine going into like you have an opportunity to go see this amazing village in the middle of 800 kilometers away, and let's say you don't calculate getting back, you're screwed.
so
Like you're not getting back. Like
yeah. For example, I crashed my drone in North Macedonia, and I was so sad because again, it's not just for the drone; it's for the fact that it's an investment, and now I need to buy a new one, and I didn't yet because again, the money of a drone could be already like 2 or 3 flights, right? So it's a lot of thinking behind it for sure. And I would say
I'll
also
give you an
it's just sorry,
go ahead.
prioritization because like for me this is the most important thing right now in my life. I don't care about like my house or having a car or like I don't care about owning things. I care about my trips. And this is sometimes people send me comments like, oh yeah, so maybe your parents are paying your trips or you're rich, have a rich husband. No, it's like this is it, and maybe I don't do other things you do, and it's okay, we have different priorities, but I have different priorities.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, and I think that's where it's different for women travelers. Because I'll be honest, I've even caught myself saying it before too. Like, I had a female. I'm not obviously won't name her, but I had a female friend in Colombia, and the girl has no job. Now, when a woman has a job and a career and she's traveling, it is what it is, right? But if a woman doesn't have a job and she's traveling all the time, what is the first thing a guy thinks? Some guy is paying for it.
Travel content nowadays, me at least, I think like, or I try to think they are smart and they know how to invest. No, but I get what you say. It's like a thing that it's still in many people's minds. I hope it changes over time. But
Yeah.
yeah, because for example, I'm also an engineer, and this is a thing people don't Some people don't understand. Oh, but you're a woman. Yeah, you can do
But
that.
you also think about it. You're keeping the one thing, like you told me when I reached out to you, right? Is like you keep your personal life outside of the like outside of the travel space. Like you know, most people wouldn't even know you're an engineer. You know what I mean? Like, because you keep your personal life separate from this side, this aspect of your life. Like for me, I'm making so much content. I have 4 channels. A lot of my life, like there's a lot of stuff I'm super open about that most people aren't because I'm filming everything. But there's like one thing that I keep to myself. One thing that like I don't do. Well, 2 things. One, if I'm dating someone, she's never in my videos. I never ever ever have my current girlfriend in a video because it opens her up to scrutiny. If I'm dating her and let's say I'm out making a video in a country and a girl is around me, now it's, oh, he's cheating on his girlfriend with this girl, and it may not even be that. It might just be that that girl's helping me with content, and my girlfriend will know about it, right? But you know, so I don't put my current love interest, which right now I don't have one, but normally I don't put my love interest ever. I don't say who she is. I don't put her in my videos. She might be there the whole time I'm making a video and no one will see her because that's my private, like my life, you know? And then the second thing, and this is something actually I was going to ask you. Um, I have a really hard time throwing a camera in people's face all the time, even though a lot of YouTubers don't. And I need to get more tactful on how I can do it without, and because I don't feel comfortable, right? Um, I feel like when travel becomes a job, the you lose a lot of the fun of travel. So you have to find something that is still yours. And for me, that's the relationships I make along the way. So I don't like monetizing the people I meet. So those are like the 2 things I keep to myself. I don't monetize the people I meet along the way unless they ask to be in a video. Like, hey, I'd love to be in a video. Okay, then I'll do it. But I nobody can really be themselves and try to build that relationship when you stick a camera in their face. It's not genuine. And it feels cheap to me. So that's one thing. Like people are like, you need to talk to locals more. You need to. I would rather have those local connections than to cheapen it by like, hey, tell me about you. Tell me about you. And it's like a lot of people don't like that, especially in these closed off countries. So I don't know.
Respect them as people because we are at their home, so we should need to respect them. Just wanted to let you know, unfortunately, my laptop is running out of battery because I had a meeting before.
Okay.
Like I have 9 minutes left, so 5%. So we should.
Okay.
I just want about that one last comment. I share the same opinion. I also don't share those things. And I would add, for example, for me, it's very important to not show also my friends and my family because I chose this life, but they didn't. So I feel that is unfair if I'm on a trip with them and I'm like, oh, recording them or oh, record me or take me. Like I try to make it just like for myself and not bother anyone because they didn't choose it. So I should not impose my lifestyle on them.
I agree. And it makes it more, I think it just makes those relationships more genuine. But
Exactly.
I know you gotta go. I really appreciate you for coming on. We'll have to do this again. Maybe talk about a different place in the world.
It's a
It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you giving me your time.
The same. Thank you for having me, and it's a big pleasure to finally meet you and talk to you. Like we texted and we know each other's account, but didn't speak like this, and it's always nice to meet like-minded people. So looking forward to see you reach every country and your videos.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, make sure you go to her Instagram at Curious Innes. I think her computer died because I'm getting the circle of death. But guys, make sure you show her some love. Go follow her on Instagram at Curious Innes. Let's get her in her YouTube up because I'm sure she's going to keep posting on there um, at Curious Innes. Again, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. And I love y'all. Have a great day.